Greetings, Sidekicks, this is Captain Comic, and welcome back to Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order. Now, it's been a little while again, so don't be surprised if this seems to be airing a little... This is going to be airing a little later. I've just posted, the 5th episode of this series, and we're on, this is number 15 total, so, yeah, that's interesting. We're in the Dark Dimension now, which is cool. It's actually one of my favorite, looking locations, because we can thank Steve Ditko for that. For those of you who don't know, Steve Ditko co-created Doctor Strange and kind of gave him and all the dimensions related to his thing, their signature look, which is really cool. No offense to Stan Lee, but he took a little too much credit. Ooh. But everyone thinks, oh, Stan Lee invented this and that, but Stan Lee pretty much always co-created his ooh, I can upgrade ISO 8. That's what I was hoping for. But Stan Lee pretty much co-created everything, mostly with either Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko. Except, Iron Man, I think, which was Don Heck, I believe, was the co-creator on that. Okay, let's do some ISO modification, though. Yep, ISO 8 management. Teach me your ways. Okay. Doing so requires both... Oh, God, it requires credits. Why? Why did you have to do that? But anyway, let's see. Go ahead and select an ISO 8, then modify it. Okay, fine. What do I want to upgrade? Increases resistance having attacks interrupted. Stunned enemies. Increases damage, but increases damage. Oh god, yeah, no, that sounds horrible. Can we just take your... Ooh, can we upgrade that, I wonder? Let's see. Select. Can we, ooh. Yeah, +1. I really like that. That's looking good. So we're just gonna give that a go. Increases strength by 550. Okay. And there we go. Oh, cannot deconstruct. That's interesting. Okay, so I mean that's fair enough. But anyway, so so Steve Ditko was noted for giving Doctor Strange and everything related to that its signature its signature psychedelic look, to the point that in the 60s a lot of people who read it thought he did drugs. Oh.
I was talking about the tacos.
Oh, of course he was. Yeah. Food and otters.
I mean, those things are cute and fuzzy, but they will bite your ankles off if you give them the chance. And I have more than once.
Oh, I love this. We should probably get moving. Let's see. But anyway, yeah, so people used to think Steve Ditko was on drugs when he did it, which is hilarious. Can we just... Oh, we just go this way. Okay. But yeah, so that was interesting. But he gave it all, its signature look and everything. And Doctor Strange is an interesting character, because, well, for one, again, he was drawn by Steve Ditko, so he didn't have that typical superheroic Jack Kirby look. So, he was a pretty skinny-looking dude. He wasn't muscular or anything, because, he's a wizard. He just uses his fingers to cast spells. He doesn't really do the heavy lifting or any of that, which was neat. He also had some really snazzy gloves. Man. Oh. What is that? Okay, seriously, what are they do? Oh, are they hammering out a statue, or... What are they doing? Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun. Seriously though, what are they... Oh, Elsa Bloodstone. Getting introduced to her. Nice. She's kind of an obscure one, and it's interesting that they created her, because, so... Elsa Bloodstone is related to an old Marvel character from not that old. He's from the 60s or 70s. I can't remember what his name was, but his last name was Bloodstone as well. And he had this thing called the Bloodstone, and it was this magical stone that embedded itself in his chest, and it gave him kind of mystical powers, and he used those mystical powers to hunt monsters, kind of like a really wacky Van Helsing. And so then, in 2015, I think, they decided, let's give him a daughter, Elsa Bloodstone. She's kind of, taken up the mantle, which is interesting. I'm not sure I don't really like or dislike her. She just kind of seems to be there. Which is... It goes for a lot of Marvel characters, actually. They'll try and create a new character, and they're like, okay, that's a cool concept, and then they'll never use him again. Like Kid Kaiju, he was introduced at the same time. In fact, now I remember, Elsa Bloodstone was introduced for this event. Monsters Unleashed, that happened pretty recently. And basically the whole plot was, like, these giant monsters from Monster Island, like Fing Fang Foom and all those ones, were invading Earth, and they were like, okay, we need some new heroes to fight them. And they found Elsa Bloodstone, which is, you know, Monster Hunter. And there was a kid they introduced called Kid Kaiju, and he was a kid who drew, he was a Japanese kid who drew manga, or just like manga drawings, and those drawings could then be brought to life thanks to his powers, which is pretty damn cool. I'm gonna actually, nope, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna actually, no, hang on. We're gonna give someone some ISO 8. Who has the worst strength stat? Let's see, 2435, 2435, 2211. Okay, so he has the worst one, so we're gonna go, and we're gonna equip this super ISO 8. There we go. Yeah. Oh, thank God we can remove those two. That's good, because in Marvel Future Fight, I believe, you can like equip ISO 8s and stuff, but you can't unequip them. In fact, you have to pay real money to unequip stuff, which is hilarious. But we're gonna play as Wolverine now, because he is just ridiculously strong. Then Kid Kaiju, yeah, they introduced him for that event, and they're like, okay, it's like a new character, we got more Japanese character representation, which I'm like, okay, yeah, you know what, I'm fine with that, it's a pretty cool character. And then, like, he gets sidelined into a miniseries, and that miniseries got canceled. I believe it ended on, like, issue 3 of 5, and I haven't heard from it since. So that's actually kind of depressing. Like, they have, it seems like when they actually have a good idea now, they just drop it. I think we've had enough lumps for today. Not. Oh, I recognize that voice. God, what is that voice from? How did you end up here anyway? I'm a monster hunter, dude. Yes. Also, interesting about Elsa. Oh wait, no, she does have the Bloodstone. I can see it around her neck. But yeah, so she's kind of a legacy character. But just barely. There are other rifts. Yep. Okay. Alright. So, have you recruited her, or... Oh. Fun with portals. Lovely. Yeah, we're just gonna stick with this team for now. Okay. Okay. I'm betting Doctor Strange is the one opening the holes. From what I understand, you actually fight Doctor Strange around here. Ooh, hey! Infinity Rift. So apparently there's an Infinity Rift in every chapter, and I'm supposed to open these, kind of. And they open up new sets of, you know what level is that again? Level 25. Yeah, we're not ready for that. We are not prepared for that. Apparently this is the point in the game where, things start getting real difficult, real fast. Oh. Another rift. Oh, crap. Oh, there we go. Look at that damage. Come on. Use a heavy attack. Yeah, there you go. Oh, destroy the arcane artifact. I can do that. There we go. Come on. Come on. I was waiting for one of these types of things to happen. There we go. Close the rift. Okay. Yeah, Doctor Strange was a really cool series. It's a shame. Steve Ditko, I believe, he only did like 25 issues on it before, no, he did 35, I believe, before he left Marvel. And the reason he left Marvel is interesting. It's because, it's basically because just Stan, he couldn't work with Stan. Stan was just kind of an a-hole, ended up taking a lot more credit than he honestly deserved. And, was just, like, really demanding and, which is weird. You don't think Stan would have been like that, but no, apparently he was. And, because, like, their main disagreements were on Spider-Man, because, they both had very different, like, sensibilities when it came to how do we characterize things and stuff. So, like, for example, the Vulture, or whatever, Stan Lee wanted him to be kind of like a pudgy guy, like, I believe, kind of like the Kingpin, but with wings, and Steve kept going, well, no, I want to make him like this skinny kind of frail old man because, you know, it's unique and interesting. And Stan's basic response was like, yeah, but I mean, like, he's an old man. How is he going to put up much of a fight? And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, but look, like, Spider-Man's whole thing was they made him a teenager because before that, teenagers were exclusively sidekicks. So, like, it's the same principle, really. But it also doesn't... What really screwed him over was the Marvel method, which thankfully is not still used today. But basically, it was the writer, quote unquote writer, would come up with some idea, like even it could be even just a one sentence thing, like Spider-Man fights the Green Goblin, and then they'd give it to the artist, and the artist would pace out and figure out where little panels go and do all of that. And then they'd submit it back to the writer, and the writer would just fill in the dialogue bubbles, which leads to, like, some miscommunication and all kinds of stuff because, yeah, so, but basically it gave the artist double duty. They had to do both the writing and the art, which is not really quite fair, in my opinion. But, so I can kind of see why Steve got a bit mad. But, yeah. Like, again, Stan was a great guy, but he's human. He was human. It's not like you can't really expect him to be perfect. Oh god, yeah, no. It's beyond, oh god. I'm guessing we're gonna have to fight Doctor Strange then. So from what I gather, apparently in this level, Doctor Strange kind of gets possessed, and we have to save him from that possession. Loki possibly also shows up. Again, this is all just speculation from bits from trailers. So, like, I saw Doctor Strange in a level, and, like, as a boss, I'm like, yeah, no, he's probably possessed. Probably possessed. And I'll just guess for it. Yeah, they might have actually revealed a bit too much in the trailers on this game. Anyways, the Spider-Man ended on issue 38 with Steve Ditko, and they switched to John Romita Jr. Oh, we're gonna have to protect Scarlet Witch, aren't we? I'd wager. But it ended on 38, and issue 38 of Spider-Man is a really bizarre one. It's called Just a Guy Named Joe. Ooh, hey, Ghost Rider. But, the plot behind that was, like, some stuntman named Joe was, like, kind of a big fan of Spider-Man. He's like, oh, this guy's cool. And he got into an accident with, like, some chemicals, and the chemicals kind of turned him into, like, a low-level Hulk. So basically, when he got pissed off or stressed out, he would, he'd kind of, like, go into, like, this homicidal rage mode, and, like, his eyes would go all weird, and he'd get super strength, and he'd just go on a rampage, just a mindless rampage. And I believe his best friend / like one of the producers on this movie tried to convince him to, like, use that super strength for, like, cool stunts and stuff, but it got too dangerous, and eventually, like, Spider-Man had to beat up that guy and then realized, oh, this guy isn't actually a supervillain, he's just kind of a guy with a problem. And that was the last that was the final, oh god, what was it? That was the end of that. And that was the final issue Steve Ditko ever did, was this weird one-off with a villain literally just named Joe. Like, he never got a supervillain name. He's still, to this day, called Joe. They didn't really use him much. Like, he became, like, a backup character in Captain America for a little while, but, the characterization kind of got all weird for him, and he, like, first he had, like, a girlfriend, and then she was his wife, and the next appearance she was never mentioned at all, and it was someone completely different. Just some real bizarre stuff. But, like, I've been reading the original Spider-Man, and I've also been reading the original Fantastic Four, which is Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, not Stan and Steve. And I have to say, the Stan and Steve stuff is a lot better. Boy, like, Jack's did not age well, because I think him and Stan kind of had similar, they thought the same way, so they had, like, kind of those, like, very stereotypical 60s way of thinking of things. And Steve was kind of an oddball. He had, like, weird political views and, like, views on, like, morality and stuff, and so his heroes ended up turning out more unique. They weren't as, like, stiff and straight-laced. And I think it also affected Stan's writing, because if you look, Stan's writing becomes a lot more nuanced. It's a lot more nuanced and less on the nose in those stories. So, like, I'm thinking he just had to adapt to the fact that Steve was doing all kinds of weird stuff with panels and character design. It's really interesting. Like, I would love to do a whole, like, this is why I want to do a podcast. I would love to just talk about that for a while, because it's a really interesting subject. Oh, hey, another portal. But yeah, like, Steve Ditko's stuff just aged very well, all things considered. Like, again, his character design is spot on. Like, everyone had their own unique shape and stuff, and like you could distinguish them from each other very easily. And like, it wasn't just all these super muscular guys. And like, it's funny, in one of the issues, kind of as Stan's way of, I think Stan was kind of poking at Steve a little bit, like mocking him. And they did a backup story in one of the Spider-Man issues that was drawn by Jack Kirby. And like, I didn't know this when I was reading, because I was reading a trade paperback that like collected the original ones. And then what happened was, so I didn't know this, so I started reading, and like, I turned the next page, it's like, whoa, when did everything get so freaking weird? And I look at it, it's like, oh god, it's Jack Kirby, because Jack Kirby draws an ugly Spider-Man. Boy, like, again, the man is a legend to this day, but he's not good for if you want to draw someone who's not just like muscles on top of muscles. Oh, I forgot I could double jump. But yeah, so it just looks so out of place and wrong, and like, even Stan knew this, because apparently when he was initially trying to come up with Spider-Man, he had initially, I say initially a lot, he had first asked Jack to do it, and like Jack Kirby gave him like his example Spider-Man, and Stan basically said, it looks too heroic. We're trying to make like kind of like a normal teenager, like with not a very athletic body, and it's hilarious. Ooh, what's that? Magic crate. Yeah, and if you can actually view those original sketches for it, and yeah, you can see like he just looks like a Spider-Man Captain America, which is it's not a good look. Not a good look, I'll tell you that. Okay. Yeah, so I've heard, but it's very odd. Or like, if you look at Jack Kirby's original sketch for the Black Panther, it was kind of inspired, I believe, by the African flag, and it wasn't a very good look. I will say that it was not a good look for, because he had like kind of like a flag cape and like this weird like high collar, I believe, and kind of looked like a musketeer, which is just the weirdest thing. This is a very confusing level, might I add. Like it's just like all over the place. I like it. Like this is the way it should be, probably, because it is the Dark Dimension, and they did a good job with Dark Dimension, I think, in the Doctor Strange movie. Like I think they did the best they could. We're almost out of time on this episode, so I'm just gonna save here, and then we'll do maybe an Infinity Trial or something to kind of maybe. You know what? No, we're just gonna continue. We're gonna keep on pressing on into the Dark Dimension, because that's the way it should be. But yeah, that movie was actually pretty good, but it is a shame they didn't really give Steve Ditko credit in the credits. Oh, uh-oh. Here comes a cutscene. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, he's possessed. He's evil.
Doctor, I'm so glad you're
He's
here.
the one opening the
Something
portals,
is
isn't he?
wrong. These
I bet.
Portals, they're getting bigger?
Yep, he's not closing them.
That must be a mistake. The spell you're casting.
Put it together, Wanda.
It's
You've been
expanding
possessed
the rift.
before. You should know this.
You have to stop.
I mean, listen to that creepy muttering. So that really does just sound like Gara. My god.
I
Uh-oh.
cannot cease until all realities are one.
Ooh, this is
So
not
I
good.
am commanded by the dread Dormammu.
Ooh. Okay, that's a good voice for Doctor Strange. I will say it right now. Oh. Restore Doctor Strange's sanity. Well, I would, but this has been Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order. So if you liked it, click like. If you didn't, click dislike. And if you want more, please click subscribe. This is Captain Comic, signing off. Bye-bye, guys.